Faith Matters is made possible through the generous support of the Ohio Humanities Council, a state affiliate of the National Endowment for the Humanities, and by contributions to your PBS station from viewers like you. Thank you.
Hello, and welcome to Faith Matters, a joint venture of the University of Toledo's Program in Religious Studies and WGTE. My name is Richard Gaillardetz, and I'm a professor of religious studies at the University of Toledo. Faith Matters is a program dedicated to the exploration of the place and significance of religion in our society. The purpose of our program is not to advocate for the practice of one religion or another, but to enhance our community's understanding of religion and the great religious traditions of the world. As such, our program will feature interviews with leaders from diverse religious traditions, as well as scholars in the field of religious studies. Today, I'm delighted to have with us Ms. Asra Nomani. Ms. Nomani is an Indian-American woman who was born in Mumbai and then moved with her family to the United States when she was 4 years old. Raised in the Muslim faith by devout Muslim parents, she would go on to pursue undergraduate studies at West Virginia University and a graduate degree in international communications at American University. She then pursued a career in journalism, writing for many newspapers and journals, including the Wall Street Journal. An important turning point in her life came with the execution of her good friend Daniel Pearl at the hands of Muslim extremists. Later, she fell in love and conceived a child only to have the father abandon her. She was left as a single mother to sort out whether there was still a place for her in the religion of her childhood. Her remarkable book, Standing Alone, is a memoir of sorts as she reflects on her Islamic heritage and considers whether she can reconcile her feminist commitments with the religion of Islam. Asra, thank you for being with us.
Thank you so much.
Well, yours is a fascinating story, and there's so many places that we could start. But I want to start with one of the 5 pillars of Islam, the obligation upon all Muslims, as much as possible, to perform the Hajj at least once in their life. Right. You decided to do that, but under unique circumstances. As a single mother who'd had a child out of wedlock, it was a risky engagement, and it begs the question, why would you do it?
My mom asked me the exact same question. She's like, Asra, please do not do such things. And I was at a point in my life where I had seen the worst expression of my faith. My friend Danny Pearl had just been murdered in the months before. I had just given birth to my child after having to deal with the issues of law in Islam that say that a mother who has a baby without a wedding ring is a criminal. And so I saw the darkest expressions of my faith. These are expressions that I had never confronted as a child growing up in Islam. I had seen the best of my religion through my parents, through my father's call for service to humanity and my mother's good neighborliness and beautiful heart. And so there I was, it was the fall of 2002. I was 37 years old, and I had a little baby, trying to find out whether there was a place for myself in my faith. And so I thought to myself, I have to go to the heart of Islam, the birthplace, which is Mecca, which is in the country now known as Saudi Arabia. And I first had to fill out these immigration forms and these visa forms, and in them I was fortunate because the visa application did not ask for the father's name of a child, and so I didn't feel like I was pulling one over on the Saudi government. And I had my father as my chaperone. My mother came as a babysitter, she said, to make sure that my little baby didn't fall into harm's way, and my young niece and nephew. And we embarked on this journey because it was a time when I needed to really come to terms with my faith and know whether there was essence of it that I could hold on to and believe in. And so that's what then sent me on this pilgrimage to Mecca.
Well, let's follow up on that a little bit. I'm interested in knowing what in particular happened during the Hajj that you found affirming of Islam, that made you feel like, in spite of its imperfections, there really is a place for you.
Well, you know, we ended up in Jeddah, where you land, and there I saw the sea of pilgrims who descend into Saudi Arabia. People of all colors, people of all complexions, people of all languages. And I went to do my ritualistic washing before prayer, and I couldn't speak to the woman beside me, but we were following the same rituals. I went and did my prayer, and I didn't know the language of the woman beside me, but at this one moment in the prayer when we raise our index finger to proclaim the oneness of God, her finger came up, mine came up, and I could feel this allegiance. And then as we went down the road, literally past the IKEA sign and the sign for the Hilton and, you know, all the markings of globalization, we arrived at the exit ramp for Mecca, and we were allowed to go because we were Muslims, but then there was another detour for the non-Muslims. And there I felt the divide that makes me feel very uncomfortable about our Muslim community when we have a closed attitude toward people of other faiths. But we went then into Mecca, and there past the Sheraton and the Kentucky Fried Chicken, you see this palace virtually that is the sacred mosque. It's lit up at night, you know, like no palace in the world. There's chandeliers, there's marble floors. And, you know, I had this romantic image that we would be walking on the sand, but it's all been covered over in marble. But then I went in to this most sacred mosque, right, in our Muslim world, and there was no back door for me as a woman. I was able to go in through the same door that my father went. I went side by side with my father, something that I couldn't do in my mosque in West Virginia. And we ended up ascending to the highest level at the mosque. And there, between these two minarets that have these flashing green lights so that planes overhead can see that this is a place where you don't need to have any kind of flight path, we are told to walk between these 2 points that represent a hill called Safa and a hill called Marwa. And these are the 2 hills that a woman named Hajar, known as Hagar in Christianity and Judaism, this is where the 2 points between which she ran as a mother centuries ago when she found herself alone in Mecca with her little baby Ishmael, crying for water. And I had my little baby, now 3 months old, in his carrier on my chest, and Shibli was walking with me. And I couldn't run because my Saudi prayer manual said that a woman could not run. She could maybe walk briskly, but their interpretation today had made it so that I couldn't run in full stride, in my full power. And I realized that something had been diminished from the birth of Islam to today in the ability of a woman to fully express herself. But then in that walk between those hills, I felt the power of this woman and all of the women before me, Aisha, Khadija, Fatima, all of these women at the birth of Islam who knew rights that sadly we had lost in much of our Muslim world today, and a progress that we had not continued into the 21st century. And my baby started crying because he was thirsty, and I felt that same desperation that we all feel, seeking salvation of some kind. And there I nursed him, and there I felt the nourishment myself of these incredible women that had been forgotten largely, but pulsed through all of us.
That's, you know, I was very taken when I read your book and you told the story of Hajar or Hagar in the Hebrew Bible. It struck me in my own tradition of Catholicism, we have figures we call patron saints.
Yeah.
You know, figures who sort of emulate some aspect that inspires us and provides an example. I couldn't help thinking that she had become a kind of patron saint for you.
She really had, and you know, she is part of our history, and yet I hardly knew her.
Yeah.
You know, and she is, to me, you know, the same sort of strength that Mary represents for so many people inside of Christianity and also within Islam. And I thought to myself, wow, here I am, a mother now in the 21st century. I've got, you know, the 24-hour Walmart open at all hours in order to get the resources I need. I have a family around me. She was alone and simply looking for water, and that water that then springs out of the earth during her last run between these hills. They say, you know, whether it's literal or mythical, they say that that water has never run out, and this is the water that we drink today as a symbol of holy water. And so this is exactly what I think, this idea of the patron saints who sustain us, who their spirit continues today.
That's good. In the preface of your book, you make a remarkable statement that I think clearly flows out of this determination for you to perform the Hajj as a test. Can you find a place for yourself, for women, with contemporary feminist commitments in Islam? And you make this statement in your preface that the Prophet was indeed the Muslim world's first feminist. Now that's going to strike a lot of people as sort of surprising. What did you mean by that?
Well, you know, the Prophet of Islam was born in the 7th century as a young, poor, you know, in a very difficult situation. His father had died. His mother was a widow, and she died soon after. And so he grew up without that maternal figure, but yet he grew up with honor. He grew up with truth, and he then ended up being chosen by his boss, Khadija, as a groom. She chose to marry him. She was the one who extended a marriage proposal to him. And he didn't say, oh no, you're older than I am, and you're my boss, and I'm the man, and I propose to you. He accepted that proposal and her love and was devoted to her in a way that even in today's modern day, many men might have difficulty doing. And so in that way, he really abandoned a lot of these hierarchical, you know, rules that people absorb. And then when he started getting revelations, he went to Khadija for comfort, and she gave him the protection and the support that allowed him to take on this journey as a messenger and as a prophet.